Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel and to another chatty video. I've been loving doing these chatty kind of videos and vlogs just for you guys to kind of have on in the background, just doing a lot of catching up. I feel like that is something I need to do a lot of this year, which I'm going to come on to, because this video is going to be all about goals for this year, new routines, wellness, just how I'm going to overall have a good positive 2023. I feel like the last few years have been a bit tricky for all of us. This certainly has for me, and we'll go into that a little bit as well. I want to keep this video positive, obviously talking about goals and stuff. I'm going to be talking a bit about self-motivation, how to kind of get yourself back to feeling like you if you feel like the last few years have been a little bit tricky, which I think a lot of us have. So that's basically what this video is going to be all about. And I do have some specific goals for 2023. I'll come on to those a little bit later. One of my goals does have to do with cooking, and more specifically having more variety in what I'm eating and learning to cook different meals and stuff like that. And on that note, I'm just going to quickly interject to talk to you guys about the sponsor of today's video. So I'm about to start dinner and I wanted to show you guys what I'm making this evening, and it's a recipe from HelloFresh, who have very kindly sponsored today's video. I've got the recipe card behind me here, and I'm doing a recipe that I haven't had before from HelloFresh. I do have my favorites, but the whole purpose at the moment is that I want to try some different things. HelloFresh is a recipe subscription box, so you can go onto the app when you sign up and choose how many meals that you'd like to have for how many people. You can select the different meals from a wide range every single week. They have lots of different options, and you can look at all of that in the app with all of the information, and the nutritional information and everything is there as well. If you're going away on holiday or you do have other plans on a certain week, you can skip a week. That's easy to do through the app as well. They let you know when your box is going to be delivered, and when it arrives, everything comes packaged in bags for each individual recipe, and they send you the exact right amount of ingredients, so there's no food wastage, which I really like about this. I'll show you the recipe that I'm making in a second. I've got the card behind me. It's step-by-step instructions, so if you feel like you're not particularly very good at cooking, if it's not your area of expertise, you don't need to worry, because it's very, very simple. Some of the recipes are rapid recipes, like the one I'm making tonight, and they're very, very quick to do, just 20 minutes. They have vegetarian recipes as well, so whatever your preference is, they will have something to suit you, and everything I've had has always been really, really good. And HelloFresh have given me a great offer for you guys. Currently, when you sign up, you will get 60% off your first box, which is a really great deal. And then you will also get 25% off for 2 months. So now is a great time to give it a try if you haven't already. You just use code Victoria60. There's also a QR code that you can use that I'll put on the screen. The information is also in the description box of this video if you want to take a look at it afterwards. I can highly, highly recommend HelloFresh. It really is great if you struggle to think of things to have for dinner, or you just don't want the hassle of buying lots of ingredients, having things going bad in the fridge. It kind of eliminates all of that, because they just send you the correct amount of ingredients for the things that you're going to be making that week. And this is the recipe I'm making this evening, which is Chinese style bacon and mushroom fried rice. And I have my first ingredients here. I always like to chop my mushrooms up just a little bit smaller because I like smaller pieces. I've got my garlic and my spring onion. Now my rice is done and drained, so that's going to go in as well, along with the peas. And then we've got various sauces going in as well. Then I just need to stir fry this for another 1 to 2 minutes. Then I just served it up and put the spring onions and the peanuts crushed up on top. And there we go. So that's the picture, and that's my rice. Okay, moment of truth. Let's give this a try. That is really good. I love the crunchiness of the nuts on top, and I can really taste the ginger. That's the thing I love about everything I make with HelloFresh. It always kind of has better flavors than things that I make myself. So if you guys are interested in giving this a go yourself, don't forget to use code Victoria60. Like I was saying, at the moment is the perfect time to give it a try, because you do get that 60% off your first box. So I'm going to start off by reflecting back a little bit over the last year in 2022. And like I say, this is more of a chatty kind of video. If any of you guys are working from home, or you're just having a bit of a relaxing time, like I say, these videos are good to just have on in the background. It's almost like if you're working from home now and you miss having colleagues, I have got you covered with these chatty videos. So just to reflect back a little bit on not just 2022, to be honest, but 2021 and 2020. I think a lot of us have got into a bit of a weird place. Now we're into 2023 and things are as much back to normal as I think they're ever going to be. I think a lot of us are struggling to get back into routines, or more specifically, getting back to feeling like you did before. I've had a lot of people saying to me they're just really struggling with their day-to-day life in a lot of different ways, with just feeling like things aren't the same. A lot of people have spoken actually about like friendships where they just don't see people as much, or they're feeling a lot more lonely. And a lot of people who used to work in an office and then obviously started working at home, a lot of companies have continued to have people working at home, and some people really struggle to get used to that. They struggle with not having colleagues around and self-motivation. We're going to talk a bit about that as well. So yeah, it has been really difficult, and I think if you are feeling any type of way like that, I just wanted to say that I fully get you, and I think you are not on your own. Loads of people are just feeling like they can't seem to get back on track, is probably the right thing to say. And it is tough. I think looking back on what happened, obviously back in 2020, it's easy to forget very quickly how things were back at that point. I was reflecting back on like March 2020 and thinking how, you know, 1 minute I was in Florida and everything was completely normal. Then the next minute, everybody had to stay at home unless you were a key worker. So you were of course still going out to work in the normal way that you would. But for anyone who was furloughed or working from home or anything like that, it was just a total sudden change. And I think at first it was quite novel because people didn't think that it was going to go on for as long as it did. I remember back to that time I was doing 3 live streams a week. I was uploading some vlogs, so actually it wasn't that I wasn't uploading content, but we just weren't doing anything. I think a lot of people did get used to doing things like that. They got used to staying in their homes, they got used to not socializing, not going to events, not going anywhere really. And I think it's not to be underestimated how difficult it is to then get back to what you were doing before, because it just went on so much longer than anybody thought. Obviously there was a bit of respite here and there where some restrictions were lifted, but then we tended to keep going back to this situation where you were stuck at home. I just wanted to say that if anybody else is finding themselves in a weird place, you're finding things a lot more difficult than you used to, and you're giving yourself a hard time about it or feeling any type of way, I just wanted to say that I do get you on that, because I completely know that feeling, and I know a lot of other people are feeling the same where that's concerned. So I've just been thinking a lot about how to get back to routines that work for me and make me feel good and healthy and just in a generally good place, because let's face it, that's what we all strive to do. Everybody wants to feel like they're in a good place. So thinking specifically about 2022, that was a really difficult year for me actually. 2021 was a bit of a weird one because we were still having a lot of the restrictions going on. Then travel started back up later in the year, I think it was November, and then suddenly I was off traveling again, and at that moment it just seemed so exciting. I couldn't believe that I was able to fly out to Florida. And so 2021 was like a bit different, and of course I was going through a lot of stuff personally in 2021, so that was kind of a crazy year in itself. 2022 was more me getting used to my new life, being on my own, having my own routines and stuff like that. But I think what ended up happening, I had so many trips that had been built up from the ones that I'd missed. I did too much travel too close together, more specifically. So I was having situations where I was going somewhere, coming back, and then within a few days, something else was then happening. And it was just a lot. Like, it was a lot of travel. And I feel like what was happening, I was able to, you know, do that and edit those videos and put them up. But almost all of last year ended up being focused on doing those trips, editing the vlogs, getting them uploaded and doing all of that. And I ended up neglecting the other things, like putting videos on this channel, which is something that I love. I love doing my day-to-day vlogs, these kind of chatty vlogs. I feel like I've got such a nice community over on this channel where people enjoy a lot of the day-to-day kind of stuff. And I feel like that just wasn't happening. I wasn't having a good balance of being able to do everything. So for 2023, I do have some goals and routines and things that I really want to get into a bit better than I have done the last couple of years. And I think I just wanted to say on that note that if anybody else has been feeling like that, where we thought that 2020 was going to be, you know, a bit of a tricky year, but it's actually kind of limped into 2021 and into 2022. If you're in a place like I am where you're thinking, right, 2023, let's have it, let's get ourselves back into a good place, then yes, I'm with you on that one. So I've written down a few of my goals. I'm going to go through those, and then I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about motivation and how I keep track of things like my planners and stuff like that towards the end. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, one of the things I want to do definitely is cooking and baking more. I do obviously cook my dinner every day, but I feel like I've been in a bit of a rut of having the same things and just the same few things over and over. And sometimes when it's just me, like if Kate's not here, sometimes I will cook for both of us, sometimes she might, sometimes we're here on our own, so it's just cooking for ourselves. And I just want to really expand on what I have and have some different things. And that's, as I mentioned, why HelloFresh is so great, because you can pick those recipes. Usually they're things that I don't make on a regular basis, so it's trying something new. And also baking. I used to love baking when I was growing up. I loved it more than cooking. I was never a huge fan of like cooking meals, but I loved baking stuff. When I was at school and beyond, I just loved doing it. And I've kind of got a bit out of the habit. And since we moved into this house, as you know, we haven't had our internet connected yet. It should be in the next few days, fingers crossed. But we've only had regular TV. So I've been watching all kinds of weird stuff on TV because I'm used to Netflix or watching things on Prime, and I've just had regular TV, and I've been watching loads of really old Bake Off series, and it's given me a real appetite, excuse the pun, for getting back into baking. So that's something I want to do this year and really make time to do. And I'm going to come on to that, speaking about these goals. A lot of the time, half the battle is actually scheduling in time when you're going to do these things. I think making a list of stuff that you know you've enjoyed doing in the past, or things that you've always wanted to do that you've never gotten around to. It could be learning a language or learning to sew or whatever else. It could be starting to do gardening, anything that you really would like to do and you feel like you would enjoy and would be a positive thing for you. Maybe make a list of those, and then it's a question of thinking, right, when am I actually going to have the time, make the time to do these things that I enjoy? Because I think a balance is so important. And because of what did happen in 2020 and 2021, a lot of us did end up finding our time being spent laying on a sofa with Netflix in the background, scrolling social media on your phone. And while everybody does that sometimes, and everybody I think does do that, I certainly don't want all of my downtime to be spent doing anything like that. That's something that I know is really unhealthy for me, and I need to specifically carve out time to do different things that I enjoy. Another goal, and this is a work-based one, is to upload consistently on this channel. So for the most part, I do have a video going up most Saturdays over on Disney in Detail. Occasionally I don't, but almost always there is a video there once a week. And when I looked at how many videos I uploaded over on this channel last year, it was nowhere near what I would want it to be. Like I said, I'd become kind of consumed and overwhelmed by content on my other channel. So uploading consistently over here is definitely a goal for me this year, and just making sure that I am able to do that. Bringing me on to the next one, which is kind of managing my workload. So I really need to get on top of that. What kind of has happened to me over the last few years? Previously, I was doing lots of trips and vlogs and everything else. Then when 2020 and 2021 came along, I focused heavily on Patreon because I had all the time in the world to be doing live streams and doing everything else that was involved with that. And I really did love that. It was a great community throughout those couple of years. What then happened when travel started again is I suddenly had too much that I was trying to do, because I was trying to do the travel stuff and the Disney stuff. I was trying to upload over here. I had Patreon as well. I had other things. There's a lot of admin that goes along with doing this type of thing. And I also, I'll come on to it in a minute, but I do actually have blogs. I did have a blog, Disney in Detail, and for this channel, and I was just tapped out with how much content I can physically create. And obviously then when Ian and I separated, there are a lot of things that he used to do that I am now doing myself, and it is just too much for one person. So this year I really have to look at all of the different things that I'm doing, all of the different platforms, my different social medias, YouTube, Patreon, and look at how I can make it a manageable workload. Otherwise, you're just trying to stretch yourself too thin. You end up over-promising and under-delivering, which I really don't like doing. And you end up just doing too many things badly when you could just do a couple of less things really well. So that is one of my biggest goals for this year, is just getting everything under control. So I know that the amount of videos I'm trying to create, what I'm doing on social media, other things that I need to do, there's enough time for everything, and it's manageable for me as one person. Because the thing with doing social media and being a content creator, you are doing everything yourself. There isn't anybody else. I don't have an accountant, I don't have an admin person, I do everything myself. And there is, between emails and doing your tax return and all of the different things going on, and the actual uploading of videos, doing the descriptions, the thumbnails, the tags, uploading on Instagram, it really is a lot actually to do when you're one person. So that is a goal for me, and that's something that I'm looking at over the next couple of weeks, because I want to get that sorted early in the year. And it could be a similar thing for you guys. If you find you have lots of different aspects of your life, so you have your work, then maybe you have things going on at home, if you've got a family, if you've got family members who need your help with things, whatever it might be that you've got going on in your life, and hobbies and everything else, sometimes it can be easy to just take too much on, and you end up just firefighting to try and get all of these things done. And actually what you need to do is think, right, I cannot physically do all of these things. I need to look at what time I have in a week, how many hours am I at work, how many hours do I have at home, and you really do have to try and find that balance, because burnout is a very real thing that happens to people. And the problem with burnout, it really affects your mental health and goes the other way, where then all you want to do is lay around in your pajamas scrolling social media on your phone with Netflix on in the background, and you don't want to do anything. So even though you've got all of these different things you're supposed to be doing, you don't want to do a single thing, and it really, really can make you feel very, very low and very down. So I think that just looking at the overall picture, listing all of the different things that you have to do, looking at the time you have, and making sure that you're not just trying to do too much stuff than you are physically capable of doing is really important. Now I have to admit, since I had my TM diagnosis, and if anybody's wondering about that, I recently uploaded a video which I will link below all about that. I actually do tell myself every single day the things that I'm grateful for, and why I'm so lucky to have the life that I have, to have the people that I have in my life, to be able to do what I do. I really do practice actually thinking about these things every single day. But I think sometimes it might be worth actually writing things down, especially if you found yourself in a position where you're struggling to think of the positives. Sometimes negatives really can drag you down to the stage where it overshadows the good things that you have in your life, and you just feel a bit generally overwhelmed. I think that really having something to refer to about the things that you really, really are grateful for can actually be beneficial. Even if you just have in the back of your diary or planner just a little list of things in those moments where you're feeling really not great, to remind yourself of, you know, those things that you have that are so great, like your family and your friends, or opportunities that you have, or maybe you have a job that is very, very fulfilling, that you enjoy very much. Maybe your colleagues are great and you love that. Whatever it might be, it can be the tiniest little things, but I do think it's definitely worth being very mindful about the positives, because I think sometimes it can be hard to see and appreciate the positives when you've got other things that are maybe dragging you down. So another goal that I have for this year, which is kind of work related, I want to have scheduled days where I go out of the house to work. So you might have seen in my vlogs before, sometimes I'll go to a Costa or a coffee shop somewhere to do some work, but I tend to do it very randomly. I don't necessarily have a regular time or day that I go. And I think for me, looking at how I do things, it would be beneficial for me to have either the same day every week that I do it, or at least a scheduled day every week. Whenever I do decide to do that, I need to make sure it's a day when I don't need to rely on the internet, because coffee shop Wi-Fi is generally terrible. So it would be no good on a day where I needed to film or upload a video, for example. But if it was a day where I was editing, I can do that offline. I can easily go to a coffee shop and do that. Or if it's a day where I've got general admin stuff to do, that would work as well. And I think that definitely scheduling that in every week is something I really want to do, because I do find working from home, if your desk is like in your bedroom like mine is, if you feel kind of confined to the same four walls and you just don't have people around you, I'm just not sure that that is an overly healthy environment. And I'm someone who likes to stay at home. I do like to have peace and quiet to work, but I think you can sometimes get a bit too stuck being in the same place, and it is really important to just have a different environment sometimes to work. So for you guys, maybe if you do a couple of days in the office and the other days at home, that probably works quite well, because then you get to see other people some days, and then other days you get peace to get on with things by yourself. But for me, I have to kind of implement that and actually go out somewhere to do some work. And I don't necessarily talk to people while I'm there, but just having people around really does make a difference, and just give you that feeling that you are getting out and doing something a bit different. Of course, on some days I might be seeing Becky or doing something, going somewhere perhaps, but just on a kind of day-to-day work basis, I do want to have at least one day a week where I go out and yeah, either go to a Costa or a Starbucks or somewhere and work from there. But the goal is to actually have that planned out and consistently make sure that I do that every single week. And another goal that I have for this summer, this was after I did my Q&A video, I decided this is something I want to do. This summer, I want to make an effort to go to some of the UK theme parks. So I'm not necessarily going to do them all in one summer, because I have got other stuff going on as well, but I want to begin the process of visiting some of them and vlogging them, and I'll put that up over on this channel. It's just something I've been meaning to do for years. I do get a lot of questions about the UK theme parks. I know some of you guys who are in other countries are keen to see what they're like. Please do know that they are nothing like Disney or Universal, but definitely nothing like Disney. But I think it will be good to do that. And again, that's not a huge goal necessarily, but I think sometimes if you don't put these things in place and make a point of saying to yourself, right, this is something I want to do, it just won't happen. I have lots of things floating around in my mind, but unless I'm quite deliberate about making sure it happens, then it won't happen. And I'm sure you guys have experienced that as well. So that is on my goal list, and I'm going to actually plan what month I'm going to do each one that I'm planning on doing. I'd love to do a UK camping trip this summer. That's something I wanted to do a couple of years ago, but you just couldn't get in anywhere. Like some of the campsites didn't even have one tiny piece of grass left for you to pitch a tent, because everybody was holidaying in the UK because you couldn't travel. So again, this summer I would love to do a camping trip if possible as well. So I've got all these little things written down, and I'm going to make sure that I actually schedule them and decide who I'm going with and things like that, make sure that they're free, and actually arrange the day and then go and do these activities. And for you guys, again, if you're feeling like you would like to do things but you're just not actually going out and doing them, sometimes you do have to actually sit there with a pen and a diary, maybe get your phone out and message your friends or whoever and say, do you fancy doing this? Who fancies doing that? And actually kind of go ahead and organize it. And one thing quite a few people have said to me, and I did touch on this earlier, is feeling like they don't see their friends as often. A lot of people have said they feel like their friendships have actually suffered, like their friendships are not what they used to be. I am very, very fortunate with my friendship group, as I've said before, and it's something that I am grateful for every single day. You know, Becky I've known for 25 years, something like that. Kate I've known for about 17 or 18 years. Lisa I have known for 35 years. And some of my other friends as well, I've known a really, really long time. I do spend a lot of time with my friends, as you do see from my trips and my vlogs. And I do feel very, very fortunate about that. One thing I will say about friendship though, it does take effort from both people to keep a friendship going. It's a little bit like a relationship. It doesn't necessarily just happen. Yes, you do have friends who you will always have, and you maybe see them once a year. When you see them, it feels like no time has gone by, and then the next year that you see them, it's the same. I'm not talking about that. Friendships definitely can work like that, but if what you are craving and wanting to have are friendships where you see the other person on a regular basis, you do have to make sure that you are staying in contact and suggesting going for a coffee or doing this or doing that. Sometimes you can sit there and think, oh, such and such hasn't messaged me, they never message me, that's rude, and they don't like me anymore, or whatever it might be that you're feeling. And all of those feelings are completely legitimate. I'm not saying you shouldn't feel that way, but sometimes it's worth just thinking, if you haven't spoken to that person, you don't know what might be going on with them. They might be feeling the exact same way. They might have something else going on. It's not necessarily that they are ignoring you or snubbing you or anything like that, and it's always worth reaching out and just saying, oh, you know, are you okay? Sometimes you can get to like a stalemate where you feel stubbornly that you shouldn't have to reach out. And I think with friendships, it's always important to make sure that you do, if you want to keep those friendships going and have friendships that last years and years and years, because sometimes people do have stuff going on that makes them not quite as good at keeping up contact as normal, but you don't know, it might be that they're having a really bad time or something as well. So I think putting that effort into friendships is important. And I have to say, I don't know where I would be without my friends. When I think especially about the last 5 years, with everything that's happened to me personally and medically and all of the rest of it, my friends have just been so amazing. Like, honestly, I can't even tell you the support I get from my friends and how much they've been there for me and done things for me and helped me. And I do definitely feel so lucky and grateful for that. And just making sure I'm doing everything I can to be a good friend in return to them. I think you have to make sure that, you know, if people are being great and helping you, make sure that you do help them and do things for them where you can. And yeah, friendships, I would say, is worth investing time into, because friendships are something that could definitely last for a lifetime, or at least years and years and years. And I just think friendships are such an important part of life. That yeah, they're something that I personally like to make sure I always invest into. And another thing that I've been thinking about is general wellness. So just my own kind of personal health and well-being, and what am I doing to make sure that I'm investing into that as well, because that can be something that massively goes by the wayside if you are not feeling great, you're feeling a bit low, you're not feeling very positive. Self-care and well-being can just completely take a nosedive massively. And I think sometimes it's not necessarily a question, when people say well-being, you think, oh, I need to make sure I have a pamper night and do this and do that and get my nails done. It's not necessarily about anything like that. Sometimes it is just the real basics that you need to think about. So sleep, for example, that can be a very difficult one for me. I'm not the best sleeper in the world. I never have been. I'm definitely not someone who finds it easy to go to bed early and then sleep for 8 hours and get up easily. I've mentioned in other vlogs, getting up in the morning is something that is never ever come naturally to me. I'm not a morning person. And if I don't go to bed early enough, if I do have late nights, then obviously that's even more of a struggle, or you're sleeping later than you should, and I really don't like doing that. So far this year, I've really got into a good routine of getting up at the time that I want to in the morning, having my coffee, and then off I go for the day. Because again, in previous years, in 2020, and when, you know, there wasn't a lot going on, I think a lot of people were sleeping in and just thinking, well, you know, I haven't got to get up for work, so I might as well. But I do think that just from a well-being perspective, I know for me, making sure that I am going to bed and waking up at reasonable times, I do find makes a massive difference to my mental health. Actually, it affects your ability to feel kind of positive and well. It then can affect your relationships with other people if you're perhaps being negative or snappy with people. None of that is any good, and it all boils down to you kind of regulating yourself and making sure that you are not completely burned out, overly tired, doing too much, feeling low, not feeling positive. I will find every couple of weeks, every few weeks, I will have maybe a couple of days here and there. Sometimes it can be hormonal, sometimes not, where I just feel really not great. And the point is, that's fine, and you can definitely have a couple of days. Sometimes if you need to take a day where you need to just lay around in your pajamas and watch Netflix, absolutely fine. Don't beat yourself up, don't give yourself a hard time, don't tell yourself you're being a failure or whatever else you're telling yourself. Just allow yourself to feel like that and just think, okay, this day needs to get in the bin. That's what me and Kate tend to say. We're like, I don't like today, it needs to get in the bin. You hear that a lot in this house. And we both have days like that. But the point is, I then will think to myself, right, I don't like this, I don't want to feel like this. What can I then do to kind of lift myself out of it, and just have almost coping mechanisms to do that? And the only way to figure out what those things are individual to you. So like I say, it could be that something you really enjoy. So if you've had one of those really awful days, You could think, right, tomorrow evening I'm not going out, I'm going to do some baking if that's something that you like. I'm going to read a book that I've been meaning to read for 5 years and I still haven't read it. It could be just starting to research learning something that you want to learn. It could be reaching out on WhatsApp to a friend that you haven't heard from or you've been meaning to get in contact with to see if you can arrange a coffee or something. Whatever it might be, sometimes you do have to remind yourself to do those things to then get back to this kind of normality that I feel like a lot of us are missing. Because if everybody had the same mindset where you're like, oh, I'm just going to sit at home and never do anything, then nobody is ever going to do anything. Somebody has to kind of reach out and organise going out and about, and it could be that other people are struggling to do that too, and they might like to receive a WhatsApp thinking, oh yes, I would love to go for coffee and do whatever. So I think definitely being mindful of those things and just being mindful for me of how it affects me if I don't do them is something that kind of keeps me on track to make sure that I am getting out there, enjoying life and doing things that make me happy, as well as doing work things and other things that I need to get done. And just to say as well, sometimes occasionally these things can't be helped. So sometimes I will have a trip planned, for example, and then I'll have an email from a company or something, or a trip, like I had that PR trip to California, and it really is close to another thing that I'm doing or another trip that I'm taking. Those kind of things can't be helped. If I can physically do it, I'm not going to say no thank you, I don't want to go to California. Of course I do, but I did know that I was then kind of coming back and very quickly going again, and I do know that that is then going to be difficult for getting stuff done. But as long as I'm not doing it too much, or I'm certainly not making those situations myself by doing things too close together, then occasionally it will happen and it can't be helped. But yeah, I think most of the time, just like I say, regulating your time, making sure you're organising yourself so you're not doing too much close together is always something that's worth doing. And in terms of kind of planning and keeping track of goals and stuff like that, I do have my 2 planners. So you'll have seen this one before. This is my Erin Condren Compact Vertical, it's called. And I think this one is the first planner that I've had for ages and kept going with it. Normally I get a bit fed up and think, oh, I think I want to try a different one, as in a different Erin Condren one. I always get Erin Condren, but this one actually is working really well. And then I do have my little mini pocket planner. This one is just the one that I have in my bag so that I always know exactly what's going on. This is more for personal stuff, and this one I kind of write my day-to-day to-do lists and things like that. And in terms of how I'm going to use this planner for goals and things like that, I'll just get this a little bit closer. So this dashboard page, this is the one for May. You can see there's several different boxes here. This box I've already designated, you can see the Victoria in detail sticker. So one of my goals being making sure I'm uploading consistently. On each month, this is where I'm going to put which videos I'm planning on doing, and I'm going to look ahead and make sure that I've got my ideas written down so I can then put them into the actual week that they're going to be going into. I think this one at the top with the little check boxes, so if there's anything additional kind of goal wise for that month, like for example if I wanted to go to one of the theme parks that month in the UK, or I wanted to maybe in August do the camping trip, that's the type of thing that I will write down in here, so that when I get closer to that month I can think, right, I need to actually plan that in. And that's kind of going back to what I was saying about actually writing these things down. Otherwise it can be easy for them to drift out of your mind, or before you know it, several months have gone by and it's become too cold to go camping or to do this or do that. So just making sure you are writing things down, I think, is quite important. So that's what I plan to use just for reminding myself and setting these little goals throughout the year, is this dashboard page. That's where I plan to actually write it down. A lot of people like to use a digital calendar. Some people like to have a journal type of thing. You can try different things out and find what works for you. Someone did ask me, I think it was in the Q&A, about self-motivation, and it can be very difficult at times. And you do get a lot of advice about these things. But if somebody said to me, you know, I've been feeling this type of way, I've been really struggling with motivation, I've been feeling very low, I've been, you know, all of those things, I know what that feels like. And sometimes I know this is not the most helpful answer. Sometimes I do just have to give myself a bit of a kind of kick and say, look, you're feeling low every day, you're not feeling too good, something has got to change, and you are going to have to be the one who's going to do it, because nobody else is going to do it. And certainly you will go through spells where that's exactly the kind of thing that you want to do, but you just can't bring yourself to do. And those are the times, like I was saying, to just not give yourself a hard time. Be kind to yourself. Be as kind to yourself as you would be to somebody else who was maybe telling you that they're having a difficult time. Too often people are really kind of internally berating themselves and telling themselves, you're failing, you're not doing good enough, you're not doing this. Be kind on yourself in your head and what you're telling yourself. I'm not saying that you can just click your fingers and be okay again, but certainly sometimes, for me anyway, I do just have to think, right, I'm gonna have to do something here to kind of start to lift myself out of feeling a certain type of way. And actually that usually does work. It's almost like a fake it till you make it. You know, you might not be feeling very good. I have days where deep down, if I stop to think about it, I'd be feeling pretty terrible, but I just kind of be like, right, I've got to get this done today, let's do it. And actually it gives me a distraction from feeling whatever way I'm feeling. So I just wanted to talk about that. I know it was mainly like goals and stuff like that we were talking about, and we've kind of drifted a bit into wellness and stuff as well. But I know from speaking to a lot of people, my friends and other people as well, I think this is just something that a lot of people have been struggling with. So I wanted to make a video about it, start a discussion. If anybody wants to say anything in the comments, anything that you found that helps you, any kind of coping techniques, any organization techniques, anything to do with goal setting, anything at all that we've discussed here, please do let me know in the comments. Like I say, I do really love the community we have over here. And yeah, I just want to do more of these chatty videos, like I was saying, that you can put them on in the background. If you are at home feeling a bit lonely and isolated working from home, then you can just listen to me in the background as if I'm that annoying colleague next to you who never stops talking. That's me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to make sure that you don't miss any uploads, because that will notify you whenever I upload anything. I hope all of you guys are doing well and getting through January. Like I said, let me know in the comments. I love to hear from you. And like I said at the beginning of the video, don't forget to sign up to HelloFresh to get that great offer, to give it a try, and the code and everything, all the details are in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.